we're going to start with chapter 12. And the question came up last week about the number 40, significance of 40. I don't know if anybody looked at the video, but I posted in the email I sent. I told you if you want to just fast forward to that spot. But the number 40 comes from Mesopotamians, that they worshiped the constellation. You know, they were the first people to really focus on constellations and the stars. And I think it's Pleiades. It's a constellation, I think, around Taurus. And in the fall, that constellation dips below the horizon and comes back in 40 days. And so for them, 40 became a sacred number. And like so many other things in our religion and our faith, they just adopted that from, 40 was an important number. It's kind of like, Christmas trees that we decorate for Christmas really came from a pagan tradition. So, a lot of the stuff that we have has come from somewhere else. And so the number 40 came from that. And it sure got picked up in Scripture, because 40 days Moses went up on the mountain. He did that twice for 40 days. Jesus, the temptations took 40 days. In the story of Noah, it rained for 40 days. So that number 40 harkens back to a pagan, you might say, a pagan worship. But it fit the narrative and they used it. So, it's kind of like preaching. You steal from others generously. So we're going to move into chapter 12. Now, putting this whole thing of the Hebrew people in focus, remember they were now headed to that promised land, and they were in one site. They weren't traveling. So now what we have are these little sermons where they're trying to deal with codifying the religion and the faith. And chapter 12 is going to deal with the codifying of sacrifices. And in 12 there are 3 sections that build on one another, and they're redundant, but it shows how those rules expanded over time. So, Barbara?
Okay. These are the decrees and laws you must be careful to follow in the land that the Lord, the God of your fathers, has given you to possess, as long as you live in the land. Destroy completely all the places on the high mountains and on the hills and under every spreading tree where the nations you are dispossessing worship their gods. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and burn their Asherah poles in the fire. Cut down the idols of their gods and wipe out their names from those places. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way, but you are to seek the place the Lord your God will choose from among all your tribes to put his name there for his dwelling. To that place you must go. There bring your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, what you have vowed to give, and your free will offerings, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks. There in the presence of the Lord your God, you and your family shall eat and shall rejoice in everything you have put your hand to, because the Lord your God has blessed you.
Okay, now that's the first part of this. Verses 2 through 7. That first you got to smash all the idols and burn their sex and religion Asherah shrines, break up their carved gods, obliterate I can't say that, obliterate, you know what I mean?
Destroy.
Yeah.
Yeah, destroy the names of those God sites. Stay clear of those places. Don't let what went on there contaminate the worship of God, your God. So, being told, get rid of all of those places. Now, from verses 8 through 12, we're going to expand on that. So,
You are not to do as we do here today, everyone as he sees fit, since you have not yet reached the resting place and the inheritance the Lord your God is giving you. But you will cross the Jordan and settle in the land the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, and he will give you rest from all your enemies around you so that you will live in safety. Then to the place the Lord your God will choose as a dwelling for his name, there you are to bring everything I command you, your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, and all the choice possessions you have vowed to the Lord. And there rejoice before the Lord your God, you, your sons and daughters, your manservants and maidservants, and the Levites from your towns who have no allotment or inheritance of their own.
okay, that ends the second clarification. And I think it's really interesting the way that starts off. Don't continue doing things the way you were doing them at present.
Mm-hmm.
Each of us doing as we wish. So they're saying, we got to focus in on one way to worship the Lord. Everybody can't. It's not a do your own thing. Your relationship with God is not a DIY event. It's got to be more specific. And then he goes on to say, from then on, a place that God, your God, chooses to mark with his name as the place where you can meet him and bring everything I command. Your offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, your tribute offerings, and the best of your vow offerings that you vow to God. We're going to have one spot. And so it's kind of like saying, one spot God wants us to be at happens to be in Hyde Park. Not on 30th, not on Main Street. The difference is we all try to focus on God. But, you can imagine that these people have been wandering for 40 years. Again, the number 40. They've been wandering for 40 years. Heaven only knows what kind of things they came up with.
Yeah.
I mean, when this country traveled west, you couldn't always do things the way you did them back east. And certainly, the early colonies didn't do things like they did in England. They found their own way. In fact, some of the people who came over and landed in Plymouth were really a different kind of people than those who went down to Virginia and landed in Jamestown. Jamestown was more of a partying community. I mean, it was Anglican. But if you go up to England, things became very strict. And then, with Pennsylvania, you got the Quakers. So, they were a little different. So, as we continued expanding, our relationship with God changed. And, there's always a group of people who say, that's not the way we used to do it.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we don't have that in the church anymore.
Right.
Just change the prayer book.
Yeah, just try it.
Yeah,
Or try different songs.
Oh, yes, change the hymnal. Oh, my God. Or ordain a GIRL.
Oh,
Yeah.
We don't want to ordain women. And, and some denominations, believe it or not, still don't. And in some denominations, women don't even have the opportunity to vote. I remember when I was back in Brighton, one of the more fundamental churches was honoring the pastor from the Presbyterian church there in town, who was retiring because he had some health issues. And I was the interim there. So they invited me to come and offer a prayer. Well, we had the meeting in their sanctuary, which had basketball hoops and basketball. I mean, it was like one of those carpeted basketball things. They had a stage, but you know, that was. And I was sitting next to a woman from the Methodist Church, and she said, "Do you know why they have this as their sanctuary?" And I said, "No." She said, "That's because women aren't allowed to have any say." She said, "Do you think women would allow this to be a sacred space?" And I had to agree. I mean, so this happened back in the time of the Hebrews. We still face it today.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I think the warning, at least in the next verse from the Message, sounds appropriate.
Yeah.
The Message says, "Be extra careful." So you
Is it
continue
verse
on.
13?
That's verse 13.
What's your say? Mine says in every CULTIC place. What's that mean?
Spell it again.
Mine says be careful that you do not offer your burnt offerings in every CULTIC place.
Cultic. Is that
What's that mean?
Cultic?
Uh-huh.
A cult is a group of people who figure this is the way it ought to be done.
Okay. Oh, okay.
You have a better definition?
No.
See, there are a lot of cults.
Well, yeah.
Cults are not a recognized religion. And there are some churches that started off as a cult and have grown into becoming a church.
I've never seen that word.
I've never seen that it spelled that way.
Cult, I know, but I've never seen cultic. It would be like Celtic.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you're talking about the Irish. See, somebody was already picking on the Irish back when Deuteronomy was written. Gee whiz, they just can't get a break.
I was thinking of Christian Science.
Yes,
Some people say that is.
it's kind of like a cult.
Like
That
somebody
is-
just made up stuff.
Yeah, and Mormons.
Yeah.
I
mean-
knew there were.
That we now treat it as a mainstream, like the Christian Scientists. We treat them more mainstream, although we know they're neither Christian or scientific.
Right.
But there still are some cults around.
Oh, yeah.
Are the Jehovah Witnesses treated more mainline now?
Yeah, they're more recognized, but they were kind of cultic when they first got started. I mean, you get a group of people who say this is the way it ought to be.
Yeah.
That guy that was down in Texas,
Oh,
where
Yeah.
James Jones.
down in Waco,
Oh.
that was a cult.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Jim Jones, that was a cult. Had nothing to do really with God. And some of the strict Mormons who still believe in polygamy out in Utah and Arizona, those are cults. And even the Mormon Church recognizes them as cults. But there's still a lot of people who practice polygamy out there. 'Cause we had a conference in what's the place where they had the Olympics in Utah?
Salt Lake City?
No, it's a resort area.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Provo.
Anyway, while we were there for this conference, Joyce and I went to this restaurant to eat. And that's where I got my I've tried polygamy t-shirt. Because a name of one of their beers was polygamy. So I asked the waitress, I said,
Oh dear.
just, on the side, is there still polygamy being practiced out here? And she said, oh yeah. We have several people in the high school who are children of polygamous families. Their dad visits, once a week, and she said, nobody bats an eye about it. It's not a big deal, but it still gets practiced.
I worked with several Hispanic people at Victory Electric where I retired. Lovely people. And the one told me that her mom and dad, he was in Mexico because he sold drugs and stuff. But she says, oh yeah, she says, the women expect their husbands to be out with somebody else. And they don't even, I said, really?
That's
That wasn't an environment I was raised in.
yeah. Well, that's I think Italians, especially the mafia. But anyway, let's get back to the message, verse 13.
Be careful not to sacrifice your burnt offerings anywhere you please. Offer them only at the place the Lord will choose in one of your tribes, and there observe everything I command you. Nevertheless, you may slaughter your animals in any of your towns and eat as much of the meat as you want, as if it were a gazelle or deer, according to the blessing of the Lord your God gives you. Both the ceremonial unclean and the clean may eat it. But you must not eat the blood. Pour it out on the ground like water. You must not eat in your own towns the tithe of your grain and new wine and oil, or the firstborn of your herds and flocks, or whatever you have vowed to give, or your free will offerings or special gifts. Instead, you are to eat them in the presence of the Lord your God at the place the Lord your God will choose. You, your sons and daughters, your men servants and maidservants, and the Levites from your towns, and you are to rejoice before the Lord your God in everything you put your hand to. Be careful not to neglect the Levites as long as you live in your land.
Okay, that's the third section. You see, each one of these expands a little bit more. Starting off with demolishing the altars and things, and we end up here with be extra careful. You cannot just sacrifice wherever you want. God will tell you where to sacrifice. And this was a problem with the Hebrew people, the early church, because where was the one spot the sacrifices were to be made? The temple. And the people in the northern kingdom were not happy with that. So they found, I think Bethel was the place where they said, well, this works. It counts the same if you do it here. But it does say, even though you aren't at the place where you do the sacrifice, but you can still eat the food. It's almost like saying, say a prayer before you eat. You're not doing a sacrifice, but the way you're doing the sacrifice would be as if you were doing it at a temple. And, there are still some rules you have to follow. You can sacrifice animals like gazelle and deer in your own towns and eat all you want with them, the blessing of God, your God. Both the ritually clean and unclean may eat. So that means Jews that are unclean, they can still take part in that feast. But don't eat the blood. Pour the blood out on the ground. And see, now it starts to get a little bit more specific. Don't ever eat the tithe of your new grain, your new wine, or your olive oil, nor the firstborn of your herds. Firstborn belongs to God. Nor any of the vow offerings that you vow. Somebody says, "Well, I'm so happy. I'm gonna give this calf It's not the firstborn, but I'm going to give this calf to God. It's now off the market.
Mhm.
You can't take it to Jackson Meat and have it butchered because it's a free will offering, or it's a vow offering. Your free will offerings and your tribute offerings, all of those you must eat in the presence of God, your God, in the place God, your God, chooses. Not where you chose, but where God chooses. You, your son, your daughter, your servants, your maid, and the Levite who lives in your neighborhood. I like the way the message says, your neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know, like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah,
Is
Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
You are to celebrate in the presence of God, your God, all the things you've been able to accomplish. So, now, if you want to do a sacrifice and have a relationship with God, there are 3 steps. Destroy all these altars from the phony gods. And then you have your tributes and offerings, your sons and daughters. You got to follow these rules. And then here are more rules for you to follow. So let's
Well, the reference to Levites there, that's the priestly class, right?
yes,
Or
yes,
the tribe. So you guys are special.
Yeah.
that's right.
Never neglect.
So they didn't have their own land, or they
The Levites
No.
were never given a
a
spot.
spot. Okay.
So they lived with other tribes.
Okay.
Okay, let's go on with verse 20.
Okay. When the Lord your God has enlarged your territory as he promised you, and you crave meat and say, I would like some meat, then you may eat as much of it as you want. If the place where the Lord your God chooses to put his name is too far away from you, you may slaughter animals from the herds and flocks the Lord has given you, as I have commanded you, and in your own towns you may eat as much of them as you want. Eat them as you would gazelle or deer. Both the ceremonially unclean and the clean may eat. But be sure you do not eat the blood, because the blood is the life, and you must not eat the life with the meat. You must not eat the blood. Pour it out on the ground like water. Do not eat it, so that it may go well with you and your children after you, because you will be doing what is right in the eyes of the Lord. But take your consecrated things, and whatever you have vowed to give, and go to the place the Lord will choose. Present your burnt offerings on the altar of the Lord your God, both the meat and the blood. The blood of your sacrifices must be poured beside the altar of the Lord your God, but you may eat the meat. Be careful to obey all these regulations I am giving you, so that it may always go well with you and your children after you, because you will be doing what is good and right in the eyes of the Lord your God. The Lord your God will cut off before you the nations you are about to invade and dispossess. But when you have driven them out and settled in their land, and after they have been destroyed before you, be careful not to be ensnared by inquiring about their gods, saying, how do these nations serve their gods? We will do the same. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way, because in worshiping their gods, they do all kinds of detestable things the Lord hates. They even burn their sons and daughters in the fire as sacrifices to their gods. See that you do all I command you. Do not add to it or take away from it.
Okay, God has a prescription.
Yep.
And we've got to follow it. So it says, if you're hungry for meat,
Eat it.
you can have it. Yeah, but just know it's not a sacrifice. But there are rules you got to follow. And these are, in many ways, kind of like the rules that the Hebrews have yet today. They don't eat pork. They don't eat shellfish. There are a myriad of things that they don't eat. So, God is saying, if you're hungry for meat, have some. And but
He's
No
really
blood.
on the blood, though, isn't he?
yeah,
Yeah.
and when he says pour the blood at the altar, after
Thank you, Steve.
10 or 12 sacrifices, that altar's gonna smell. I mean, blood has a rancid smell when it dries. And I wouldn't want to be the priest to have to walk around the altar.
So how do we reconcile at communion we're drinking the blood of Christ?
How do we what?
Reconcile that we're drinking the blood of Christ.
Well, we're not Jews, number one. But remember in the old prayer book, when you take communion, it would usually be a two-step thing, because what you'd say. Now you just say the blood of Christ, the cup of salvation. It used to be the blood of Christ preserve thy body and soul unto everlasting life. Take and drink this in remembrance of me. And that's because when Cranmer wrote the prayer book, the Roman Catholics say this is the blood of Christ. The Protestants say it's a remembrance thing. So when Cranmer wrote the first Book of Common Prayer, he put in there, this is the blood of Christ shed for you. Do this in remembrance of me. So he covered both bets. And usually you could do that in two people. The blood of Christ, sacrifice for you. Do this in remembrance of me. So I guess technically, if you wanted to be really Protestant, you'd have to count heads and find out where you're going to get the remembrance. If you were high church, you'd want the blood. But I hadn't really thought of that point, Bob, but the sacrificial, Jesus was an offering. And I don't know. I think I'll give up my ordination. I've been leading people astray for a long time.
But you'll come up with some research by next time. won't you?
Yeah,
That's
we'll
right.
find it.
Yeah.
Find it.
You'll know next week.
I always leave here with homework.
But it says earlier that blood is life, so
Yeah.
that's what I see
Yeah.
in communion.
Yeah,
I don't see it as a problem to us. I just
No.
Yeah.
see back in our Old Testament heritage, some of these traditions that
well, part of that I think was, the meat could sustain you, but there could be some reason not to drink the blood. I mean, I don't know. I will have to do some research.
It's funny how that sticks with you, because once in a blue moon, I'll actually eat a piece of meat. And if it's undercooked, the plate will have a little red blood. And I look at that blood and think, crud, am I not supposed to eat this thing?
That's not blood. Those are juices.
there weren't any vegetarians back in this day. They didn't talk
No.
about vegetarians. did
No,
they?
and there wasn't a problem with eating wheat. So, but it's interesting how these rules are laid out, and then they just get added to. But don't worry, if you like meat, you can still eat meat, and
As long as it's not pork.
as long as it's not pork.
They must have had a lot of gazelles running around.
Yeah, well, I don't know if
Gazelles and deer.
well, deer and gazelles, cattle are easier to move. I think it'd be hard to move pigs. Because remember, they keep pigs in a pen. But you see cattle roaming around the hillside. And I'm not familiar enough with pig farmers. I never wanted to get that close to a pig farm because it really smells. But
Well, they do have the wild.
yeah,
Pigs?
wild boars.
Javelina.
And they're very tasty.
Really?
I had wild boar one of our trips to Italy. That one of the restaurants had wild boar. Yeah, and I thought it was really good. Joyce wouldn't eat it.
I'm with Joyce.
So you got her feast.
I'm the picky eater back here, but she's the picky eater in Europe. I try anything over there because I figure I'll never have a chance to eat it again.
Right.
But Joyce, I always remind her, you're the picky eater over there. Okay, now chapter 13, we're gonna get another 3 stories that deal with false prophets. And the first 5 verses of chapter 13 deals with the first one, and then 6 through 11 is the second, and 12 through 18 is the third warning. So, Barbara, let's go.
If a prophet or one who foretells by dreams appears among you and announces to you a miraculous sign or wonder, and if the sign or wonder of which he has spoken takes place, and he says, "Let us follow other gods, gods you have not known, and let us worship them," you must not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer. The Lord your God is testing you to find out whether you love him with all your heart and with all your soul. It is the Lord your God you must follow, and him you must revere. Keep his commandments and obey him, serve him and hold fast to him. That prophet or dreamer must be put to death, because he preached rebellion against the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt and redeemed you from the land of slavery. He has tried to turn you from the way the Lord your God commanded you to follow. You must purge the evil from among you.
Okay. It's a good thing we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Because the first person who said, let's change the prayer book,
Yeah.
we'd have put to death, seeing him as a false prophet. But boy, God is not holding back at all on somebody who's going to lead his people astray. If you got somebody who says, let's worship other gods, take care of them.
So,
Go ahead.
so did the consequences just come out of the sky? I don't really mean that, but you know what I mean. Or were there police?
Well,
Good stuff.
there were priests that they had,
And they
and the priest would say
enforced?
that's a false prophet.
Okay.
And see, this was a problem.
Lots of rules.
Yeah, this is a problem that continued through the time of the prophets. You had prophets that were false prophets, and you had prophets. Hi, Sally. You had prophets who were doing the prophecy correctly. Like Jeremiah was prophesying what
Right.
we believe to be true. We know he was a true prophet because his prophecies came true. But the false prophets tried to put him to death. Remember, they threw him in a hole. Isaiah had the same problem. I mean, all those prophets, remember in some of the minor prophets, I think Amos and Hosea, they were doing their prophecy, and somebody said, you got to get to the king, get that guy off the street because he's telling lies about you, when he was actually prophesying the truth. So, sometimes it's hard when someone is telling you this is what you ought to do, and somebody else says, no, you're a false prophet. How do you really know? I mean,
Time will tell is about it.
yeah, but in the meantime, are they offing the
That's
person?
tough.
Yeah. I mean, look at Jeremiah. Had a hell of a life.
Mm.
I mean, it was not an easy life. And there were a lot of false prophets in his time.
So were the Pharisees at Jesus' time, some of them thinking that he was a false prophet?
Well, they were kind of split on that.
That's what I mean, but some of them, that was their perception.
Yeah, well, they said, this guy is, that when they went to the Sanhedrin and they went to the king, they said, this guy's telling that we shouldn't worship Rome, we shouldn't acknowledge Rome or Caesar. Now, every time they challenged him in person, Jesus got the best of them. Should we pay tribute to Caesar? Jesus never answered that. I just love that Jesus never answered a straight question. He'd say, whose picture's on that coin? And they said, Caesar. Run to Caesar, the things that are Caesar's. When they were stoning the woman, Jesus didn't say, hang on. He just said, well, whoever's free of sin, cast the first stone. Well, that just took the joy out of the whole thing. I mean, he just, so they always tried to trick him, but he was smarter than they were. You know, and I guess if he truly is the Son of God, he's gonna be smarter than anybody.
Yeah.
So, you know, but it's hard when you have preachers like Jim Jones telling people to drink the Kool-Aid. You got to think, yeah, how do people buy into that? Well, it's a false prophet, and some people would follow Satan
Yep, they do.
if he told them, if they
It's on all the time.
so we're going to the IHOP. Oh, I love pancakes. So, purge the evil from your company. You can see why a lot of people were put to death.
Yeah.
Okay, Barbara, let's go on and see what the next warning is.
If your very own brother or your son or daughter or the wife you love or your closest friend secretly entices you saying, "Let us go and worship other gods," gods that neither you nor your fathers have known, gods of the peoples around you, whether near or far, from one end of the land to the other, do not yield to him or listen to him. Show him no pity. Do not spare him or shield him. You must certainly put him to death. Your hand must be the first in putting him to death, and then the hands of all the people. Stone him to death because he tried to turn you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. Then all Israel will hear and be afraid, and no one among you will do such an evil thing again.
Okay, so now if you've got a close friend, a wife, a brother, a sister, a son, a daughter, comes to you and say, let's go and worship some other gods, you got to take them out. Which makes me wonder somewhat. That may be one way to stop the Jehovah's Witness from coming up on my porch. Have you read Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 11? Wait right here while I go get my gun.
This says, mine says, I don't know if Barbara emphasized that, but the wife you cherish.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought that was interesting.
Yeah, the message says, even your dear wife or lifelong friend. I mean, people can lead you astray.
Oh, yeah.
And so we have to be cautious. All right, let's start with verse 12.
If you hear it said about one of the towns the Lord your God is giving you to live in, that wicked men have arisen among you and have led the people of their town astray, saying, "Let us go and worship other gods," gods you have not known, then you must inquire, probe, and investigate it thoroughly. And if it is true, and it has been proved that this detestable thing has been done among you, you must certainly put to the sword all who live in that town.
Wow.
Destroy it completely, both its people and its livestock. Gather all the plunder of the town into the middle of the public square, and completely burn the town and all its plunder as a whole burnt offering to the Lord your God. It is to remain a ruin forever, never to be rebuilt. None of those condemned things shall be found in your hands, so that the Lord will turn from his fierce anger. He will show you mercy, have compassion on you, and increase your numbers, as he promised on oath to your forefathers, because you obey the Lord your God, keeping all his commands that I am giving you today, and doing what is right in his eyes.
Okay. Sounds kind of harsh, doesn't it?
So when the Spaniards were coming to what we now call Latin America, and they were encountering the civilizations down there, and they virtually wiped them out, was this part of
Probably. Yeah.
their heritage of reasoning?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the gold and plunder that they
Yeah.
that would have anything to do with it.
That too.
Well, and they also brought things like tuberculosis
Yeah,
and other diseases that wiped them out.
yeah.
I saw a sketch on, I think it was on Facebook, and it showed a guy dressed up like a Spanish sailor coming into the new country, and there was an immigration station.
The Inca or Aztec or something.
Yeah, and they were saying, what's your reason for being here? Well, we just want to kill and plunder. I'm not sure that's a good reason.
Yeah.
But you know, those three sections in chapter 13, each one becomes more and more violent and broader. I mean, down to wipe out the whole city. Now, God was still looking at that with Sodom and Gomorrah. Remember when Jonah God told Jonah that to go to Nineveh, and you know, God said, "I'm going to wipe out the people of Nineveh," and Jonah starts negotiating. This happens a lot in the Old Testament, where some prophet negotiates with God. Well, what if there's 10 honest people?
Yeah.
Well, for 10 people. Well, how about there's just one? Okay, I won't wipe out the town. But, you know, there was that carryover from Deuteronomy that if you find a bad city, you need to wipe it out.
So there were innocent ones killed also.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it just, and I hate to say it, but that's what happens in war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if we look at what the Russians are doing to the Ukrainians, I mean, they're white. And the Ukrainians are doing to the Russians. I mean, the Israelites are doing to the Gazans, and the Gazans are doing to the Israelites. You know, that's what war is all about. Kill people and break things. Okay, we'll pick up with chapter 14. Boy, we're moving at our usual slow pace. But there's a lot of good stuff in here.
Yeah. There is.
See you next week.
Lot